Hello and welcome back to a new video. This week we're creating this scene, some fun and interactive rigid bodies in a nice playful way. This was inspired by a Houdini artist, Paul Estevez, who I've been following a little bit to try to learn Houdini. But yeah, I thought I could try to recreate something like this in cinema. So let's jump in and get started. So to begin with, I want to create a container for our spheres to sit in. So what I'm going to do is bring in a cube and I'm going to kind of size this up a little bit. I'm going to make it a bit wider on both sides. Something like this for now. I guess I could put in some exact numbers just in case you want to copy me exactly. So let's just go something like this. So what I want to do actually is just make sure that my camera can sit directly above. So I'm going to turn my focal length to 200 as I want this to be quite a flat shot. And then I'm going to go to my coordinates and I'm going to zero out the X and the Z. And then we'll change our H to 0 and our P to -90. So we're looking directly down. Then we can just raise up our camera on the Y axis, keep going. You can see now our box is in frame. So kind of just want to make sure that this fills the entire frame. So maybe I'll go to about here and then I'll select my cube and I'll just drag these points here so we fill out our frame. So I'm going to lock my camera in place. So I'm just going to right click on here, go to rigging, down to protection, we'll drop that on. So now we can't move our camera. So I can just come out of here and we can continue doing some more setup. So first things first, let's make this cube editable by hitting C. And then with the face mode selected, we can hit the top face and delete it. Now, just to help with our collisions, I'm going to make this box a little bit thicker. So let's, with the cube selected, let's go here, holding Alt, let's add a thicken. Now it doesn't need to be too thick, but we could go with 5 centimeters for now. That seems good to me. And I might even just go to edge mode and double tap the top edge and just bring it down, as we don't need it to be too high. So you can come out of the edit mode, we can go back to object mode, and we can just drop in a sphere now. So drop in the sphere and let's change its type to hexahedron, so it's a bit more optimized for collisions. And let's lower our segments to, let's go for like 10, because these are going to be so small that we're not even going to see these edges. But of course you can do whatever you like, and I'm not going to make this sphere editable, so we can always change these parameters depending on your PC specs and what it can handle. So I'm going to lower this radius down. Let's go for like, let's try 11 for now. And let's drop this into a cloner. So holding Alt, drop that in a cloner. And now we can edit our size. So this is the distance between each of these spheres. So let's drop the X first, bring them in nice and tightly. And do the same here. Maybe we could go 25 on each. We'll do the same for Y. And now we can just up the count to kind of fill the space of our box. So let's do this, up this number. And I guess we can add some, maybe like 3 or 4 layers. Let's start with 3. So hit NA to come out of lines mode, we don't need to see that right now. And with our cloner selected, we can right click, go down to, let's go bullet tags and rigid body. So we hit play and our spheres just fall through the box because we have no collision actually set up on the box yet. So with the thicken selected, make sure you've got the thicken, not the cube. We can just minimize that and right click and we'll do the same thing, go to bullet tags and add a collider body. Now that's all set up, we can hit play again. And now our spheres drop into the box as they should. I'm going to remove the work plane because that's getting in the way. We don't need that anyway. So yeah, so this is all set up nicely. If you want to add more spheres, you can make them smaller and then increase the density. I guess for the speed of playback, I'll keep it as it is now. So I guess the first thing I did to start this effect was animate a spherical field. So I'm going to drop in a spherical field now. Let's drop that in. Let's kind of get a rough size. This is always editable as well, so it doesn't really matter. We don't need to be final on anything. But let's now move this off to the side and let's drop in some keyframes for X and Z. And then let's go forward. I'm going to actually increase my timeline to, let's go 140. And then we'll go forward to the 100th keyframe and we'll go forward and keyframe both X and Z again. So you see we didn't actually move on the Z, but what I'm going to do is go into my curve editor and adjust this. So let's kind of just frame this up so we can see it a bit better. I'm going to actually remove the cloner for now so we can see this animation line. We've got this curve for the Z keyframes, which is doing nothing right now, but what I want to do is kind of make the spherical field swoop down and then come back up. So I'm just going to grab this handle here. I'm going to pull this down. So let's kind of give ourselves a bit more room and kind of play around, and you can see in the viewport it's updating where the animation is going to take place, like the line it's going to follow. So we could kind of bring it around something like this. I mean, the first one's kind of okay. Maybe it could swoop in a little bit later. I think this could be quite nice. I'll bring it down just a tad further, maybe earlier. And then maybe this one could come up just again. Yeah, something like this looks okay. I mean, we can play it through and see, but yeah, I quite like this, like swooping down and then coming back up. But yeah, you can do whatever you want. So I'll close my curve editor and we can put our cloner back on. This isn't going to do anything just yet, but I do see that our spherical field isn't actually going to interact with any of our spheres because it's too high up. So we could just, on our Y coordinate, drop that down just to make sure that it is going to interact with them. So anyway, let's get the first effector set up. Maybe we could do let's go with the scale first. So what I'm going to do is drop in a random effector and just make sure that on your cloner, when you go to effectors, that the random effector has been added to it. If it hasn't, just drag and drop it into this box. Now, at the moment, by default, the random effector has the positions all turned on. We don't want that, so we're going to turn that off, and we're going to turn on scale and uniform scale. And then I'm actually going to up this scale value. Let's just go to like 0.5. Right now, it's just applying that to all of our spheres, which we don't want. So we actually want to use our spherical field that we animated. So we're going to our fields, we'll drop in the spherical field into this box, and I just upped my scale to 1.5. I think this might be a better value. So we hit play now. We're not really seeing much going on. We can see that it's kind of doing something, but where our effect is just taking place inside that spherical field, it's not actually like applying it. So it's just they're going to revert back to their original size as soon as they leave the radius of this spherical field. So as in many of my other tutorials, we used a freeze field. So let's go back into our fields and let's add in this freeze. We're going to move it below our spherical field and we're going to turn this mode to grow. And then with the spherical field's blending mode, we need to change that to max. And now when we hit play, you can see it's permanently making those changes. So it's made some of these balls a lot bigger, but we can play around with that. So maybe the scale could come down a little bit. Maybe we'll go for like 1.2. But yeah, this is looking cool so far. I think maybe adding a lot more spheres in your cloner would make this effect look a lot better. But I guess this is just for playing back. But I'll add some more in a bit. But now that's set up, we can also do the material. So I'm going to drop in a shader effector. And I don't know if that's going to have applied. No, so I need to drop that into the box. I'll do that below. And let's go back into that. And we can turn off the scale, but we don't want to do that because we've already set that up. And let's go into the shader. Let's go noise, add that. And I'm going to turn the contrast up a bit more, and then I'm going to up the global scale. And you can see it's already affecting our spheres. I mean, I'll keep it about here for now, and I'm going to do some different colors. So I'm going to do like a bit of a more saturated blue for my first color, and then for my second color, I'll go for a slightly lighter blue, something around here. I think this will look okay. Let's play around with that. Yeah, so I think this is nice. But again, it's applying it to all of our spheres and not just the ones that we've passed through. So if we go back into our random field, into the fields, if we right click these, we can group field from selection. So now we have access to these fields in the outliner. So that means we can apply them to other effectors. So we go back into our shader, into the fields, and we can drop that group field in there. So now when we hit play, you can see I've got an issue here. It's because I need to actually go back into my group field, hit the freeze and clear it. So that should get rid of any issues with ones that have already been affected. So yeah, this is looking cool, but I'm going to actually up the cloner count now because this doesn't look as good as my example. So let me go back to the start and let's sort out these cloners. So maybe I'll make the spheres a little bit smaller. I'll go for like 9 centimeters. And then, let's go, kind of look a lot closer. Maybe I could go into my camera for this. So let's go control camera, yes. So now we can really see how much space we have between each of the clones. So let's try 19 maybe for each of these. Now we can just up the count on each axis. So something like this looks okay. 39, 22, let's see how that looks. I think, let me get a bit closer. I think maybe my spherical field needs to be a bit bigger. So I could up that. Maybe even up the inside a little bit more. Now play that again. Yeah, that looks a lot better. It kind of looked like some of them weren't really being affected by it. I think maybe I don't want them to be as big. Maybe. Let's go back into the random parameter. Go like 1.15. And this is looking okay. I want even more really, so I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to lower the size even more. I'm going to go to 8. And then back in my cloner, I'm going to make this spacing even smaller. I'm going to drop it all by 2 centimeters, maybe even drop a fourth line. And then, yeah, let's increase the other axis. And I'll play now. And yeah, like it's slowing down a lot more, but I think it just looks cool because you've got way more variations taking place. Like you've got some smaller spheres and then some bigger spheres. I'll just keep my segments at 9 for now, as I think that worked okay in my example. But I think this spherical field might even need to come up even more. I think it's still too low, so I'm gonna grab that and bring it up a little bit more. Think about 50, minus 50, let's see how that looks. Yeah, it's a lot better, a lot more going on. Go back into our top view. Yeah, this is looking cool. Now to get this working on the material, we need to set some extra things up. So what we can do, I'll just pause here and let's add a new material. I'll just call this one balls and let's open that up. And let's double click and we just need to add something called a color user data node. Now in the preset, go to MoGraph and add color. Now you just hook that up to the color and that's literally it. That's all you need to do. It's gonna take into consideration the colors you've set up in your effectors because they are like MoGraph objects. So in our random field, I don't think we did set up any colors. No, we didn't. As I've got this set to off, but in our shader that's got the effector color. So this information is going to get passed to the material through this node. It can pass in the color and then also take into consideration any other parameters that you want to set up. Now I should probably get some more lighting set up for this scene, so I'm going to come out with my camera and I'm going to go into lights. I'm going to hold shift and add a dome light, and I'm going to turn it off in the viewport as I don't like it too much. And then let's also drop in an area light and right click on that. We'll go to animation tags and add a target tag. And I've got this null object here. I've called it light tracker. So that's in the center of my world. So wherever I move this light now, it's going to point towards that target. I'm going to move that off to the side here, around here. and I'm gonna turn the spread down quite a lot, and then I'll probably need to do the exposure. Let's go into our top view, and I'm gonna bring in my render viewer. Let's just see how this looks right now. So yeah, it's quite overexposed right now, so I'll turn that down. But I quite like that spread. I mean, this is looking okay. Maybe I could just minimize that for a second. It's very dark in the scene now. If I do that, it might be better. What I could do actually, so that my container isn't creating any shadows, we could go into project and go exclude, hit the eyedropper, and let's just select our thicken. And then hit the eyedropper again so we don't select anything else. So go back into here, let's bring up our render viewer again. Okay, so now our container will not cast any shadows if the light is too low. So let me just let me dock this actually to the side, and I'll come out of the camera, and I'll lock this to my camera actually so we can just see how it's updating. I'm going to move my light down just a bit, maybe actually increase its height. So yeah, because I want this whole area to be lit a bit better. I think this is looking okay. Maybe up the dome light just a tad, bring some more light in. I think this looks okay at the moment. And I've just realized I haven't actually applied the material to my cloner. It's just it's doing it by default because I haven't got a material on. So if I drop that onto my cloner, I might need to just resim, and let's go back into our camera and let's see. And yeah, it hasn't made too much of a difference, but it is a little bit more reflective. You can see where the roughness is a bit lower. But yeah, no, this is looking quite nice. And we can see the container around the edge, so you could even move the camera in a little bit more, but we've got that protection tag, so I'm going to just turn that off temporarily and then bring in the camera just a bit more. There we go, and I'll lock that so we don't mess that up. But yeah, there you have it. That's the effect setup really. The more spheres you've got in the scene, the nicer it's going to look. A lot smoother, so I might quickly do that now, and then I'll come back and cache the whole thing. So I'm going to quickly just add some more spheres. So I'm going to come out of here, and I'm going to lower the radius even more. I'm going to go to like 6. Go back into the top view so we can actually see, and let's make this even more dense. Let's go 13 on each of them, and then up this. Now that's looking quite good, quite dense. Now if I play again, it's a lot slower now, but there's way more being affected, which does make it look a lot nicer. There's a lot more variation, as I said earlier. You can see there's a lot of smaller ones, and then there's some bigger ones. But yeah, it's looking really nice. So now I can show how that looks in the render preview. Yeah, it's just way nicer. I think when it's a lot denser and you have all this variation in the sizes, it's just, yeah, it's a lot better, a lot cooler. Now remember, once you're happy with the setup, you can come into your rigid body tag on the cloner, and you can go to this cache tab, and you can hit bake object, which is going to cache the simulation and means it will play back a lot smoother next time. So I'm going to bake that now. So now that's cached, we can play this back, and it's way smoother. Like, it plays back in real time pretty much. Remember I mentioned earlier about the jagged edges. Maybe before you cache, you want to go into your sphere and up the segments. Or if your scene is so dense, like you've got so many spheres that you can't really see the jagged edges, then it doesn't matter. But yeah, you just need to decide whether you want to up the segments or keep it fairly low. But once you've cached it, it doesn't matter. You're not going to have to simulate everything again. So yeah, you just need to make that decision based on what you need. I haven't really made any changes to the rigid body tag that I added to the cloner. I mean, you could come in here and play with some of these, like the bounce, the friction. I didn't really change anything, to be honest. But you definitely could come in here and mess around with some of these to see if it makes much of a change. Same for the scene settings actually. If I hit Control D, I haven't changed my scene settings. I think I have my collision passes on 4 by default. It might be on 2 by default for most people, I'm not too sure. But yeah, like if you're finding that your spheres are going a little bit crazy at the start, maybe some of them are glitching out, then maybe you need to up your collision passes, that might help. But for me, I don't think I've had too many issues, so yeah, this works for me. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please be sure to drop a like if you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. Hey.